Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Thumb Together TV, and welcome back to the world of the Roys, the least dysfunctional family ever. I can't even say that with a straight face. Yes, welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Succession Season 4, Episode 1, The Munsters Together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Give some love to that subscribe button as well. And hey, if you think I'm okay, if you dig what I do, then maybe if you're a fantasy fan by any chance, you wouldn't mind checking out my self-published fantasy novels, We Were Wizards, which are available right now on Amazon.com. This purple one is the first book in the series, and this silver one is the next one. And you can get them both on Amazon right now. These are the hardcovers, but you can also get paperback and you can get ebook if you're an e-reading kind of person. So check those out. We Were Wizards right now. Don't forget to leave reviews too, because that always helps me out a lot. Otherwise, Bezos will not recognize my algorithm whatsoever. Kind of like what's happening right now on YouTube, but I digress. So it's been a long, long time since Succession Season 3, as is the wont for HBO. They like to leave us hanging, or in the case of Westworld, leave us dead. Thanks a lot, Zaslav. I'm still hurting over that one, but thankfully he did not touch Succession, so we get to end this show on its own terms. And as is usual with the first episode of any HBO show, this premiere, The Munsters, was all about just setting a stage and a tone and a theme. And we're going to try and talk about those to the best of our ability. Of course, HBO happened to drop, it's happened to start season 4 of Succession right now when I happen to be at a point in time during work where my work is extremely busy this coming month and a half. Of course, it just had to be timed that way. Like literally starting today, the Monday after the premiere, I am in full-on crazy busy work mode. So I'm going to do my best to get these Succession videos out as prudently as I can. They might not always drop as soon as people would like them to drop, but they will drop, I promise. So let's talk about the Munsters, as is the norm for all great storytelling, great long-form storytelling, I should say. We start to end the way we began, which is with Logan Roy's birthday. But we all know Logan Roy is a crusty old curmudgeon, so he doesn't like people singing happy birthday to him or wishing him the best regards because, well, frankly, the people he surrounds himself with are a lot of people like him who only care about money, so really everything they say is insincere anyway, right? But we see a side of Logan that we don't normally get to see, which is him not getting what he wants. And yes, you could look at that from the broad strokes perspective here of he doesn't win the bidding war at the end of this, but also there's the whole fact that his kids, except Connor, really don't want anything to do with him. Last season, Logan's ex-wife made a point of talking about how she bought dogs, and Logan was always the kind of person who would kick something that loved him because he got off on seeing it come back to him anyway. That's the way he treated the dogs. That's the way he treated his children. And now, for the first time in the series, at least for this episode, we've still got 9 more to go, but now the things and people he have kicked are not coming back to him. And it's his birthday, and he's feeling that emptiness, but of course he doesn't show it like a normal human being because he's not really one, period. He's Logan Roy, so he shows it by being grumpy, by being disdainful to everybody around him, by trying to coerce his children into calling him using backdoor means like Carrie, and it continues the trend of Logan being a horrible, toxic, absolutely god-awful person, and it culminates in this final bidding war where he exchanges the only words he exchanges with his kids this entire episode, which is congratulations on saying the biggest number. And then some colorful expletives in there. I would say I don't want to get demonetized by YouTube, but who am I kidding? I am nothing but demonetized. There's no monetization happening here. The kids, meanwhile, are in a place that we have not seen them in either because they seem to be functioning as kind of a, dare I say the word here right now, talking about the show, but kind of a healthy family unit. At least Siobhan, Kendall, and Roman anyway. The Connor's off doing his own thing, but more on that later. But these three are trying to start their own business, and they're working things out, and they're respecting one another's opinions, and they're checking to make sure one another is okay, and that they are feeling heard and feeling valued. And even though their idea for this thing called the 100, which was some just weird hodgepodge media thing that sounds like it was going to go out of business in no time flat, even though that didn't really fall through, what they ended up doing is something possibly better. We'll see what that's like in the long run, because they bought PGN, Pierce Global News. I think that's what that stands for. They bought the Pierce company. For the first time ever, they did so whilst competing with their father and beating him. Now, this looks like it might be a good sign, doesn't it? It looks like it's a sign that things are finally a-changing, and we are going to see a progression on Succession that is outside the norm, at least the norm established in seasons 1 through 3. That's what this premiere looks to be telling us. I don't think that's the case at all. I think we're in for chaos that we never even expected. I feel like this is lulling us into a false sense of security that we're finally going to see Logan lose. Or rather, that we're finally going to see the kids win. It's tricky, but I don't think that this is as good a thing as the show is sneakily trying to suggest that it is. And here's why. This deal with PGN, there were no lawyers present, at least not on the Waystar side. I think it's what you call a handshake agreement. It's contingent on them, based on a line of dialogue I remember, in order for them to afford the $10 billion that they put forward as their offer. In order for them to afford that, they have to liquidate all of their Waystar shares when this Gojo sale happens in a couple of days. So there's a lot of ifs before we get to the then. So I feel like an else is coming. When you look at the last episode before this, which is our season 3 finale, it ends in a very pointed way of Logan really saying it, spelling it out. I win, you lose. And that has been the theme of the whole show. So sorry, my chair is so loud. But that has been the theme of the whole show. He always beats them every time they try to get a one-up on him. So for this very next episode, I know it's been 2 years later, but for the very next episode to suddenly have them win, I don't trust that. At the end of the day, I would say that it's probably, and I'm making a blanket statement here, but I would guess 90% of the people who watch this show would prefer to see the kids win over Logan, right? I'm assuming, I could be dead wrong, but I like to think, I like to have enough faith in humanity to think that most people are not rooting for the absolute horrible monster that is Logan Roy. And instead, if they're rooting for anybody, it's the slightly less atrocious monsters that are his children, or at least people rooting for Greg or Tom. I feel like most people don't want Logan to win. So because the last season ended in such a Logan always wins kind of way, the fact that the show has tried to immediately pull that rug out from under us and say, no, look, Logan lost. That is a trap. I'm going to put an image of Admiral Akbar up right here because he knows what's up. So if I have a prediction for the season, I'm going to say it's along those lines, that this is all just the calm before the storm, and we are in for a lot more of Logan winning. I just feel like the showrunners know that that's kind of what people don't want to see, so they're going to keep pushing us in that direction, but in creative and interesting ways that we have not seen yet. And as usual, on a show like this, that is full of some of the most whip-smart dialogue ever, I have made it a tradition here when we talk about it on the show to talk about the best line of the episode. Who had the best line of the episode today in our season 4 premiere? Well, that honor is going to have to go to Connor's fiancée, Willa. I mean, there's always so many gems, so it's really hard to pick, but the one that just stuck with me the most was the most simple one. Sometimes Succession's dialogue has a habit of almost being too smart for its own good, almost kind of reaching those levels of Sorkin dialogue where you're like, okay, why is every character on this show that verbally quick and precise? Like, it almost gets too unbelievable. Succession straddles that line. I don't think they've crossed it, at least not in any serious way yet. But that's why it was so refreshing to have a line this week that ended up being the line for me that's really got nothing clever or insanely complex about it. It's a completely simple line. Connor proposes that they change the venue of their wedding to something utterly ridiculous because that's Connor. He wants to now get married, possibly under the Statue of Liberty, and have fireworks and bum fights, and as he says, quote, razzmatazz, for no other reason other than that he wants to create a stir and hang on to his 1% that he has in the polls, and hopefully help that further his campaign in the future. It's all just thinking about himself, because that's what the Roys do. And Willa's priceless response is, I know it's silly, but I've always wanted a nice wedding. God bless Willa for sticking through this for so long. I can't imagine she's in this for anything but the money, so I can't say her intentions are like 100% saintly here, but any other person would have walked away from this shit show a long time ago. So kudos to her. I also want to give some kudos before we wrap things up to everybody's favorite cousin, Greg, because it looks like Greg is finally showing something that he has not shown throughout this entire series, which is the tiniest hint of a backbone. It's not completely there yet. I mean, he literally decides to abandon his Tinder date or whatever and just let Logan's bodyguard escort her out or do whatever he has to do. But he does grow a bit more confidence. He does kind of enter the Roy orbit with a bit more swagger than he usually did. And he even, although it is with prompting from the man himself, roasts Logan on his own birthday. It is immediately thrown back in his face, but he does it, and he sounds kind of relieved to be able to do it. So that looks like it's something that we should keep our eyes on this season. It looks like we're going to see a little bit more of Cousin Greg finally nudging back at the Roys that have basically used him as a mop for 3 seasons now. I know there's a lot of interesting stuff to come here with 9 more episodes on the slate ahead of us, including presidential elections, possibly this wedding, the Gojo buyout, the fallout of this PGN buyout, and who knows what else. So look forward to chatting with me here on Thumb Together TV all about this. Again, work is going to be hectic, but I'm going to do my best to get these videos out as soon as I possibly can. So thank you so much for watching Thumb Together TV here with me. I'm Andrew Fantasia. I will see you all next time as we sit and stare at the absolute train wreck that is Waystar Royco. Until then, my friends, adios.